Hey, are you one of those people who doesn't enjoy working on background arts? I am exactly that person, and I become extremely lazy when it comes to it. One day I decided to draw a comic featuring my original character. And as soon as I started working on the first page panels, I soon discovered that I needed to design the environment first. Drawing character in was easy peasy. But sadly, when it came to writing the story and drawing the panels, I had so much to think about that I struggled to come up with the design of the environment on the spot. So this time I decided to challenge myself to create a concept art, and also hoping that it would help me overcome my hate for drawing background art. By the way, if you're new here, I'm elcay, and I used to work at a game company years ago. Using that experience, I've been wanting to make my own game one day. In the meantime, I'm trying my hand at creating a comic, because I want to learn more about the character's world and to fall in love with my characters even more. Anyway, while sharing all the process and all the trial and error, I'll talk about how I dealt with this piece. So let's get started. Just like in the last video with the room design, I'm planning to put a lot of energy into drawing this background. I think if the background design is defined to show what kind of character lives in the place, the world could be more interesting to the viewer. Like, you can imagine what goes on there day to day. So today's concept art is for Melonie's house. I started this piece off with so much enthusiasm, even live streaming the process on Twitch, and we were having a good time just chatting while I was trying to figure out how to get started. But pretty soon I hit a wall, and at that point I thought, well, this piece is going to collect dust for a few months. To be honest, I have very little experience drawing houses. The only time I've done anything similar was back in high school in a design class, which I can't even remember what the name of the class was. So I started by sketching a perspective line, drawing from what little I remembered from back then. I figured it would help keep the image from looking all wonky. What came really handy for this part was Clip Studio's ruler tool. It lets you draw perfectly along the lines, and it makes the whole process super duper easy. For the house design, I did a bit of research on Pinterest to get a feel for the kind of look I wanted in advance. Since I wasn't sure about the structure of the roof, I ended up drawing it through trial and error, doing some research along the way as well. Like, it made me wonder how the heck roofs are attached to the house. So I googled that and tried to look for like a diagram to hopefully help me understand. But I honestly didn't think I'd be learning about how houses are made before getting into this. But you know, you just gotta keep going until it looked alright enough. So things like the entrance light, the front porch, stairs, all of these things were drawn for the first time, I think. And in my head, the whole time I was just thinking, man, I can't be bothered drawing these things. There's just not enough excitement in it. But as I finished each part, I did feel a little sense of accomplishment. Surprisingly, I began to believe that maybe, just maybe, I could do background art no problem moving forward if I just kept going with the perseverance. Then a few weeks have passed. The last room I worked on took about 5 days to finish, but this time I could only make a little progress each day, and to complete this piece just felt like it was gonna take ages. I guess when you're doing something for the first time, it's hard to see the steps or which part of stage you're in the process, and that uncertainty started to make me feel anxious. So I was really relieved when I finished the basic house part done, and finally I could move on to designing the garden. And you know, plants always make a place look more wholesome and relaxing, so I really look forward to working on this part. But then again, I was surprised to realize that as someone who usually stays indoor most of the time, landscaping was completely uncharted territory to me. And so of course I struggled even further. Drawing something you're not familiar with really takes a lot of brain power. As time went on, my biggest challenge became staying motivated. So to give my tired brain a little break, I played movies or anime in the background. And of course, drinks and snacks are a must. Do you have like a go-to snacks or drinks when you're working on something tricky? I'd love to know. Lately for me, I've been loving genmaicha. At some point I was pretty obsessed with homemade matcha frappe as well. I still haven't figured out how I could hack my motivation, but I've come to realization that I need to be more interested in what I'm drawing. I think I've been avoiding backgrounds, or maybe it's because I've never really had a reason to, but I've mostly worked on human characters in the past. And when I draw a character fan art, I usually love the characters so much that I can pour all the energy into it with this love power. But it was hard for me to put the same kind of passion into every single object. I really wonder how background artists get so immersed into their work, but also in their field. Kinda hoping I can crack the secret one day. But also a side note here. Sometime during this process, I remember dying from morning sickness. So I moved away from the computer and started drawing on my iPad with Procreate from bed or the couch. Having had this option really helped me push through, because I wouldn't have gotten it done for months and months to come otherwise. And so as the concept art neared its end, I told myself I'd finish this drawing by the time this movie I was watching ended. And I let my momentum and energy carry me through to the finish line. And to be honest, I didn't manage to add as much detail as I originally planned, but I still think it turned out good enough for this planning part. I'm not entirely sure since I didn't keep track of the time, but it definitely felt like a long battle with myself. Well, now that it's done, I learned a lot. I'm glad that now I can draw a little more things, especially since I've only been able to draw human characters. But if you ask me to do it again, I'm not sure if I'd be thrilled about it still. I mean, I'll definitely keep making more since there is so much more to this project. But if any of you are planning on, working on some background art or about to give it a go, let's both take it one step at a time and not rush ourselves. Now that we've finished designing Melonie's house, I'm thinking about what to tackle next. Maybe I can introduce some story stuff or how I will approach drawing the panels. But thank you so much for sticking with me this far. I'm excited to keep growing and I really appreciate your continued support. I'll see you in the next video. Bye!